And we are live. We are live with the last day of Art Meets Business. Yay! Yeah, we made it. We had some fantastic days behind us now, right? Where we discuss a lot about business. And today is the wrap up, right? Don't forget that wherever you're watching this, it is live right now. And we love if you participate, if you ask questions, if you give your comments. So look where you're watching. If it's a comment box or a chat box, that's the place. We are monitoring right now on YouTube, Facebook, and at curiousmondo.com. So if you're in either of these places, perfect, you can participate. And don't forget to share too. If you think you know somebody that is thinking about opening a business or is struggling with a business right now, maybe they can take something from this that they can go tweak and have a different result. So take your time to share this on whatever you're watching now, any social network. Remember, this is content only. Nobody tries to sell anything, so it's safe for you even to post on groups. Awesome. So let's see. Let's just to keep this consistent to every other day. I'm going to go through what we have covered so far and then about today. So day one, we talked about predicting the future, knowing, being able to pinpoint what is going to happen, and a lot about consumer behavior, what's the trend that will surface after all this crisis is gone. Even some of them are already happening. Then day two, we did basics of live streaming. We talked a little bit more about consumer behavior. And then live streaming. Day three, positioning. We did a lot. How do you position? How you tell a story? How you get to be perceived the way you want by your prospects and customers. Day four, we mixed a little bit we had several questions. We talked again about the market. We talked a little bit about online possibilities. So we talked about having a gallery or having a boutique. We can even talk a little bit more about that. Today, and I read my artist statement. Today we are going to start with the artist statement, right? Because this way we make sure we cover that, because every day it was being postponed. So we will start with that. Maybe we'll talk a little bit more about online possibilities. We are going to talk about buyer's remorse when, for example, people buy something from you and a day or even less than a day they come and they want to return, not because there's anything wrong with the product. It's because it's something that happens. So we are going to talk a little bit about that, and adding components of entertainment to your art business. And any business can do that, right? Any business and artists as well. So that's what we have planned. Let's see how much we keep on task today, right? I really love the topic. I can talk about consumer behavior a lot and trends, and even with my best friends, when we had a chance to get together, but now either through one of the messaging apps or you put the car beside another. Hey, how are you doing? How are you doing? We actually, most of the time, we talk about trends and how consumers are behaving. And like right now, for example, there is this big question: is the country open in April? Is it going to open in May? While the hospitals and other structures say we shouldn't open before June. Well, when you're planning something, how do I stay alive in business, and how do I make money during this transition, or how do I manage all the bills that I have? You have to plan. You always plan really the right way would be to plan for the worst. So for example, if I had to make a timeline right now, I would go, okay, we reopen, we go back to a new normal in June. And I make plans for that, even though inside I might be hoping that it could, which I'm not. I think it would be better to get rid of the threat and then go back, other than just go back and then have to deal with this again. I for sure don't want to have to deal with the situation again. But even if we're hoping for the market opening soon, I have to plan for what if it doesn't. And it's not pessimism or anything, it's just being ready for what comes ahead, right? So, and again, it's important for you look at data, not to look at what other people say just because they say or because they found something on social media and they are sharing. Not only you pass along a lot of false information, but the fact is you get more confused. Many times you get angry at things, and that doesn't solve anything. Looking at hard data is always the best approach, because even when projections are wrong, right, you have a path. Like if it's really wrong, it's going to go this way, and then it starts going this way. You say, whoa, we are doing something right because it is getting better, and I can rely on that. I cannot rely on hearsay and people just giving their opinions about something or spreading information that who knows where they got that. I think it's important for you to be, even though we are creative people, and some of us are very analytical, most of us are not, to learn how to train yourself into this kind of mindset, so you don't freak out easily with things that they're not even true. Right? And we here in National and I in business, we always told our clients also when it comes to opinion of other people about your business. So for example, you devote a long time to decide what you're going to sell, how you're going to sell, and then goes the website. The website, usually, people over focus on things that are not that important, like the color or the font that you use. They are important, but it's not the main thing, right? It's the story that you're telling. And then comes somebody, I don't think it works with this color, or I don't think this is guessing. There's no data or experience for that opinion, right? It's just what they think. And if you keep listening to that, you're never going to go anywhere, because everybody comes in from a different point of view. So we always say, if it's not a qualified opinion, I don't pay attention to that. So if you say, I don't like it because bread is not in trend anymore, well, you got to give me hard facts about that. Where does your opinion is coming from, or else I'm not going to pay attention. So for example, I do have some friends that are marketing and business consultants. We exchange a lot of information because we have been doing this for many years, right? So I pay a lot of attention when one of these friends say, you're doing this wrong, or it is not going to go this way, it's going to go that way. And we are already talking about November and how things are going to progress, and worst case scenario, mild case scenario, best case scenario. So you look for people that are somewhat related to what we do, or have experience in the topic that you're searching information from. Okay, that was off topic, by the way. Oh my. Okay, and Ashla said that there is no controlling me, it's just a wish. Bella Rose, I see classes in the making with the wonderful art in the background. No. No, yes and no. Right, this side, yes, because I have the beaded flowers, and that's upcoming, I think, in 2 weeks. My butterflies, they take forever to finish one, and sometimes I use embroidery on wool felt, sometimes I needle felt and then I embroider. So and I have a few that are just textile. So that process, not going to turn into a class because it takes forever. Diana, I see some of your moths on the wall, so beautiful. I love them, and I hope to make many more. I really enjoy them. Cass, the first day was so interesting and eye-opening. Thank you. Diana, I love listening. Always some new nuance is covered. It depends on how the day went and what I talked about. It comes here, ends up here too. I don't think we can plan much right now. Well, you can. I don't know if you're here. I don't remember. If you were here the first day. But we talked about many things that we know how people will behave despite them being home or outside. So some of it, yes. But like I said yesterday, there are so many unanswered questions. Even this, are we going to, let's say, go back to normal? In April, is it May? Is it June? I mean, I wish really I had a hard date. It would make things much better. But there are some plannings, and even if, worst case scenario, we still stay 8 weeks closed or even more, what are we going to do to keep generating cash, right? And it's interesting because many of us, when we have something to sell that has an appeal to the market right now, we start feeling guilty if we offer that to the market. Because you're thinking, well, there is suffering. We are all living a feeling of grieving, really. We are all grieving the situation and what's going on. So there are very, very strong emotions going on. And am I wrong if I put something out there and offer? Am I taking advantage of this moment? And again, is a matter of mindset, right? If I have something, I see every single every single piece in every single business. At some point, it has a solution to a problem, which is exactly what people look for. They're always looking for a solution to a problem, right? And even boredom. Right? If I'm really bored because I've been inside for too long, I want entertainment. I want to get my mind out of something, right? So they are always looking for a solution to a problem that they have. And your product or your art either solves that or not, right? So let's go back to the fairies and gnomes. I'm wearing a gnome today. I love gnomes. It's an art piece from a friend of mine called Marilyn Uriel. She's phenomenal. But you're always, if you're looking for fantasy, it's really because you want to bring hope back to you, right? If there is magic in things, if there's the mystery that our brain loves that. I told you about mystery and rituals and mystique. If it has that, I feel better, right? And I put my whole body and myself into a different frame, which can be very useful right now. And I lost why I was telling you that. Oh, and Ashley wants me to show you my beautiful gnome. So Marilyn Ure made this. She's a local artist and it's made out of glass. And you should see the pieces that she makes. Like she has some octopus, which I learned with her that the right plural is octopuses, not octopi. No. Well, maybe. I don't know. She makes them, and they're phenomenal. She also is an amazing wood carver, and she runs a group of wood carvers here that I told you before is one of my favorite groups. So many amazing artists. So anyway, I really lost why I was talking about the magic thing. But we are always trying to solve a problem inside, right? And if your product or art solves that problem, and believe me, art also solves problems, it's fair to offer. So you are going to put out there. Remember, they are going to make the decision if they want it or not. Of course, you have to have the right approach to do that, and we talked about that yesterday. But you wouldn't shy away if you have anything that people can benefit from now. But you leave up to them to make the decision. So there is nothing wrong with that. And there are many things out there that can help people right now, right? Including, sometimes time to think about events, which, by the way, it's one thing I left outside yesterday. But think about this. As an artist, you have the option of the classes. You have the option to have galleries with gallery openings online. You have the option of having boutiques. You have the option to do the same type of market you would do for crafts and arts locally, right? The same thing, you would showcase people. And then you could mix that by having a friend of yours, maybe he's a musician. He can do a performance there, so you incorporate a component of entertainment, a bit more to that event. But you can also have other types of events as well that could be just gathering people together with the softwares that you have and making things together. It's another option, and you can charge for that, right? So there are many ways you could get something. Let's say you decide to build a gnome out of whatever you deal with, wool, sculpting. You could tell people, come watch me do it and play along with me and do your own gnome at the same time, and you pay X for that, and you use a software like Zoom, for example, to enable that situation, right? It's a way. Any artist can do this type of event, and they're not. I know of some that are doing, but very few. Very few. So why not? Is another way for you. Whatever skill that you have to create, wool, sculpting, glass, whatever it is, why not? You gather that as a one-night event, gone. You cannot charge a lot, but you can charge. And then another group. So you have many options there that we could still explore. Um, those butterflies are amazing. Thank you, Patricia. I'm sitting here in my garden. Ooh, and it will be 1 month tomorrow, but it's still coughing like a good Yoon. In the morning here in France, and for once able to watch. Please sorry, I know how to read. It's just because I'm tired. Please keep up with your great work. You know, one thing, I'm going to assume you got it, right? National and I, we actually believe we got the coronavirus in January. We had an instructor that was sick right after we got sick as well, and it was awful. It was awful. And Nashla, we both have asthma, but Nashla's asthma is stronger than mine. And we had to go to Instacare and say, it looks like there are bricks on my lungs and I can't breathe. And the guy looked at her and said, oh, it's anxiety. And I told him, it's not anxiety. She's never anxious. I mean, we have an earthquake. It's like the world is ending. You're like this. And she, petting the dog, I think it's an earthquake. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's an earthquake. So no anxiety there, ever. But at the end, he gave her some medicine, and we're here. But I'm still coughing, and it's already April, right? So I don't know. I cannot be tested, so I'll never know, but I think. Lisa, those butterflies are amazing. Thank you. They are one of my favorites. Beverly, hi, Bev. How are you doing? Bree, I had family members talk me out of trying something I was really excited about. Exactly. And like I told you yesterday, I, as a consultant, I never say you have a bad idea. I did that once, and for the life of me, I still feel guilty about that. What you have to try to do, even when you think an idea is way crazy, is really try to show the pathway to make it successful. Because again, anything can work. But the problem is that usually the people that we have around us, that includes husbands and sisters, they usually do not work on the same wavelength that you do. You are an artist here, and you think in a different way. We all do. And they come from their world, from their experiences, right? Many times it's very different than yours. And they say, oh, this is never going to work, based on what they see as reality, right? And we kind of see a glimpse of what's possible and what's real. So it's very presumptuous of us to know that, to really know if that thing has or doesn't have a chance, right? I, for example, even though I love to go to restaurants, I would never have one. I think it's a very difficult business. You need a lot of cash flow all the time because the food goes bad. You have to be really good at predicting what and how many are going to sell, and this is a skill that you can develop, but that's not usually the case, right? So it's a very difficult thing. And when you think about how many there are out there, for example, there is one city nearby here. It's a tiny city, Midvale. They have 172 restaurants. So if you think they have more restaurants than people, so it's tough, but it's not impossible. But whoever tells you it's not going to work, they better have a lot of very good arguments, because you never know where you could go. I told you yesterday about Scotty Potty, and at first moment, you would think people don't even are interested in this topic or on this solution, right? And look where it got. So never say. Never allow people to keep saying that to you, because it doesn't work. Denise is saying, I've had people suggest that I make things related to what's going on right now, rainbows, etc., but I'm not comfortable with taking advantage. Nashla told me, don't forget the artist statements. It's really here in front of me right now. Again, it's the same thing in marketing. We say that there is persuasion, and there is, I forgot the other word. But there is a very fine line between them, the persuasion and let's say attraction, client attraction, right? The bad one is because you started with a bad intention. and the other one you didn't. You say, I'm going to tell stories that make people cry. Are you, oh, manipulation and persuasion. Are you manipulating them? No, right? You know that it's quite possible of an outcome, but your intention is not bad from the beginning, right? So if I create a product right now to make people feel healthier, for example, so you take 2 spoons of this and you're not going to get this, well, the intention from the beginning is bad. And I know I'm going to be telling a lie and selling something that is not going to do what it does. It's very different than you having a product that has value, that can help, it offers a solution to a problem, and you put out there. And you're not going to grab anybody by the neck and say, you have to buy from me because this is going to help you, right? You put it out there and you state what that does. Period. And then they decide. But your intention from the beginning was not taking advantage. If it was, everything that you're going to do, it will fulfill the first intention. Got what I said? So I think it's very complicated to say, because you have something that can help. For example, if you had a product that relaxes people, let's say you sell water fountains, right? And yours has the perfect rhythm that will put a person in a relaxing state. Or you're a musician and you believe in vibrations and you create a song in the right vibration to make the whole energy balance. And you say, I know most people are stressed right now. You might be stressed as well. Maybe you're not sleeping well at night. Well, you explain what vibrations are and how it's important because your body is made of energy. And you say, by listening to this music 15 to 20 minutes a day, you will balance again the wavelength of your whole body, and you will be able not only to sleep but to relax. Are you taking advantage by doing that? So, you know, there are many ways we can look at exactly the same thing. Now, if you create something vibrational that will make people get more anxiety, and then you're going to sell another solution for that anxiety, then you're manipulating the whole process. So that is a bad action. Okay, if you don't agree with me, let me know. Shahar, I am like you in that I like to do many different mediums. Yes. Do you have any suggestions for marketing, setting yourself up as an artist? What I can tell you, and that's a very good question actually, because many of us have the same problems. Remember my artist statement yesterday? I read it. And I told about the fiber and the needle felting, right? If I were to set up another site or something where I would be selling beading, I would create the whole story again for beading only. What we cannot do in marketing, or we can do, but it costs a lot of money, is trying to market many things, many different things at the same time. It does not work. First of all, because you are getting little bits of people from different audiences, and you're spending money in order to reach them a lot. So you have to choose one that you like. Let's say you don't have a website now. I don't know what it is, how you are on your artist's journey, but let's suppose you don't have a website or anything. You will create, you can put more than 1 or 2 on a website, it's fine, but you're going to build one audience first. So let's say it's the needle felting first. And when that is generating the income that you want and everything is going fine, and you have time, because the beginning is always ask for more time from you, then you can go to the other medium and do the same. Even though this has been true forever, I can tell you, when we started Curious Mondo, we made the same mistake. We started, and again, I was coming from the consulting field, so it's a topic, again, that I can talk 24 hours about, and I like it. So we said, okay, let's create this for businesses. We were training a multi-level company here in town as well at that time. So we thought it was a no-brainer. So I say, we start with business, but let's put self-improvement as well, and let's put something else. I think it was cooking, I don't even remember. And we did that. And even though we did sell one on the first day and everything, sales on the first year were beyond awful. I really don't know how we survived that year. And we were spending energy and money trying to make it go. And talking to my friend more than once. He helped us a lot at the beginning. And he said, the problem is you're trying to market to different audiences all the time, and that consumes money, energy, and it doesn't bring the results. And I say, yeah. And then I thought, okay, if I have to narrow down, then I'm going to narrow down for something that I'm really passionate about, because then spending the time doing it will be more fulfilling. And because I told you before, I had a website in Brazil that sold craft tutorials for 18 years. I knew how it works. And we went for that. And that's really when things start happening. So now for the last 4 years, all we do are courses related to arts. Right? And we have that point where it's not the crafty thing that you find easily on YouTube and you can play with kids. We don't go there for that audience. We go for the audience that really has a passion to grow as an artist, right? So that's where we cater. And then things happen. It happened because we narrow the focus. And then when the money needs to go someplace, it goes to that specific audience. You see? So it's not that I cannot play with everything, but if I try to sell all the kinds of mediums that I like to make at the same time, I'm not going to succeed, or I'm going to go to need a lot of money. Because you may be thinking, I can do Facebook ads, for example, and then I target different audiences. Well, you can. But if you want it to work, it costs. And it costs a good chunk. Are you going to do that versus this audience, this audience, this audience? Because the person that likes glass is not, for sure the person that likes glass is not usually the person that likes fiber as well, right? They are not the same audience. And they spend money in a very different way. Yeah, today I could tell you in each segment how they are as buyers. And there are buyers that need a lot more convincing. There are buyers that are a lot more thrifty, and they usually follow one line of hobby. Is quite interesting. So all these things, you see. So you can still keep making them, but market one thing first. And once that is giving you money, then you come to another. Let me go, before I answer the others, through the artist statement. So we don't do the same thing we did. Yeah, she's saying, hallelujah. I'm going to read once again, just for those that were not here yesterday, so they get an idea how I wrote mine. And I wrote mine after a course that I took with Judy Elsley. I did talk to her about giving a course to us. She doesn't think it works doing online. She really thinks it needs to be in person. So what I'm going to do is read the statement and talk about some questions you should ask when you're writing yours. And why is this important? It's because it's part of the whole story, it's part of the whole thing. The artist is a crucial piece of the art, so they cannot be totally disconnected. And if you just write something because you wrote something, doesn't gonna work. And if you do this also when you submit pieces to galleries and exhibits, it's also not gonna work. So here's mine. I sculpt animals. I mangle and twist wool. I wet, poke, and take air out of, I'm not doing good in reading. I mangle and twist wool. I wet, poke, and take air out of to force the fiber to connect to itself and turn it into sculptures of lively animals. I often focus on species that are disappearing. I start with wool, but textiles and embroidery are frequently part of the finished piece. I start by choosing the animal I want to sculpt and the story it needs to tell. Then I look for the colors of wool I will need. The technique is called needle felting, and it asks for bats of wool because it felts faster. And I think we are back. Yes, I think we're back. Let me know. I think we are back on YouTube and Curious Mondo. I think we lost the Facebook feed. Well, can you imagine 5 days not having any technical glitch? Never happens, not in our lives. Okay, so I don't know where I stopped, so we can go back. But I was talking about the last paragraph about building credibility, but how the fact that if you have college or formal education, it's not a big deal. Nobody asks you about that, okay? Very extremely rare. So that's what I wrote. So here I have a few questions that if possible, write that down so you can create your own. And the most important one, you are writing this to your audience, to your specific ideal client. We talked about that yesterday. We defined how to get to the ideal client. Once you know who she or he is, then you need to write this to that person, right? And again, your ideal client needs to be that one person, because then you will know exactly how to talk to that person. And that person will represent the group of people that will be buying from you. So you write to them. And write in a way that is appropriate to you. You might not like the style that I did, and that's totally okay. But, what do you think? And write down also what you in 2 or 3 paragraphs, what would be appropriate for you to say there that would matter for people that could be your buyers, right? For example, in here, I'm talking about animals. The needle felting gets 1 paragraph because it's an art that many people are not aware of. You would be surprised by how many people never heard of needle felting. So when they see the sculpture, they want to touch, they want to understand what it is. So it's the number 1 question I get all the time. Maybe with beads, that would be an unnecessary paragraph. I don't need to explain beads, but I can explain a little bit of the process of it, right? So for example, if I were Marilyn and I made this gnome, I might say I melt glass at a very high temperature using my hands and fire, and that will I will turn that into whatever shape I want to say what I want. So for example, her gnome has a little heart, it's about love and da. So you can say that. You can tell a little bit of the process if it's a more intricate process than just, for example, beading. But if it's bead weaving, for example, that you do with a needle, you can say, I weave beads using a needle, or I weave beads using a loom, and with them I create designs and blah, blah, blah. So the process sometimes is necessary, sometimes not so much. So you have to think about that. I like to include the process a little bit, unless I make something that is extremely simple. Just by looking, people know how it's made. But if not, then I would talk about the process. It's always also part of that mystery and mystique, right? When they look at your piece, they don't know. Like if they look at Karen Baker's sculpture, they don't know that inside there is an armature. They don't know that there is fleece around it. They don't know. So talking a little bit about the process opens their eyes to everything that piece encompasses. So it's a cool thing. Who are you as the artist? It's nice to say that. So for example, when I say I sculpt animals and I sculpt animals that are endangered, I'm saying that I have a passion for that. I pay attention to that. And you might be the kind of person that could, for example, I like wolves a lot. And I have a landlord that if it's up to him, they're would all going to be dead. Well, we know we cannot have a very intense relationship, right? Because it's a crucial point of difference. And yes, you may say, but wouldn't this, not attract or push away a potential buyer? Not everybody will buy from you. And you really want to know the people that would buy from you more than once. And I need to talk about that more than once. It's a lot more important than a person that buys just once and go away. And the reason behind that it's a lot more expensive for you to get new customers than to keep selling to the same ones. they value what you do, first of all, right? They are your loyal customers, but they make the business sustainable. So if you have a business that you always need new customers, so for example, with a product that has no value, so they're not going to buy a second time, then you're spending a lot more, either time or money, and it's usually both, that you are spending on the time to market and keep selling those pieces. While you have something that they would buy over and over again, your business can be sustainable. Why people love the art doll shows? Because they attract collectors. What Let's try once again. It looks like we're back. Isso eu já parei. Okay, so here we are back again, and I don't know if you heard that. This problem never happened, so we are trying to deal with that as it goes. And I'm not sure where I stopped, but let's try to reconvene and you tell me. I was talking about why people like then the sculptors like to go to art doll shows, for example, is because they attract collectors. Collectors buy more than once. It's extremely important because, again, that brings sustainability to your business. So I'd rather have, people that don't buy at my higher price point, but they buy often, than to have every now and then having to go fish for one that buys the high-end products because it's going to cost a lot more. Okay, and I hope it became clear because really I don't know what you heard or not. How long you have been doing this is something that you can add. Again, it doesn't matter if you're good at what you do and you started 3 months ago and you still make beautiful pieces. So what? You don't have to be making this for 10 years. I decided to put when I got to Utah because for me that's a landmark, right? That for me was a rebuild of life. So I put that here because of that, and because also Utah is a great piece of conversation. When we were speaking and we would go, hang out with these people that, were famous in the marketing field and everything, and you would say, yes, I came from Brazil, and yeah, and where do you live? In Utah. They would always say, why Utah, right? And it was the best choice ever. It's a great place to live. But, it's a piece of conversation. So I added that as well. And I didn't put how long I've been doing this. So it's your choice. If for you, you think that's a point that increases the credibility, go for it. But if you haven't, and I don't even know how long I've been doing needle felting, but I could put that as well here, right? So it's your choice. I decided to put a landmark of when I started. And then when you write, so you stay with between 3 and 5 paragraphs tops, no more than that. Usually many galleries, they want the three paragraphs. You read it and think about what you can cut. Communication, it needs to be precise and clear, or else it creates confusion. So it's the same thing when you're writing. You need to see, okay, do I really need this phrase here or not? So for example, this is my way of telling the world that all life forms matter and should be honored and to try to reconnect people with nature. For me, I cannot take that one out because that is huge for me. Animal preservation, not being judgmental with different genders, different colors, different religions, different whatever, is important to me. I want to see the being, not the outside. And I think it's important for people to reconnect with nature. I think we are way detached from nature. And that's bad. That's a bad thing, because if we are disconnected, we don't care. And if we don't care, we are hurting them, and they're beings too, right? They are forms of life. So I couldn't take this sentence out because it's a huge part. You might disagree totally with me, but at least you know who I am. And see, the problem is not to tell people you may not think exactly like they do. That's not a problem. The problem is that we today, we don't know how to have difficult conversations. So for example, if I mention I'm a Republican or a Democrat, the other side will get angry and make assumptions of whatever I am, when we really should sit down together and see if the differences are really that big or not. Difficult conversations are a healthy thing to do. It also teaches you how to deal with emotions, right? Because some of my best friends, they have a total different political view than I have, and we are still very, very, very good friends, right? When we have the difficult conversations, it gets a little bit more heated, but we understand what we are doing, right? We are fostering, seeing if I can get to where you think, and if you can get to where I think, we can get in between and understand each other better. So it doesn't matter that the person doesn't think like you, but it's important for them to understand who you are, right? Because they are buying what you create. And I think it's even more important with art, because we put a lot of energy into what we make, and that energy is there. And the last one, so can I cut? Can I cut something? Think. Maybe you don't need to say one thing or two. Make it precise, make it clear. And then you ask yourself, what is missing here? Is there anything extremely crucial that they don't know, that they need to know? Right? So again, even the process, it needs to be clear and to the point. You're not going to explain everything like if it was a class, right? Just enough for them to understand what it takes. So I get a barb needle, I get a piece of foam, I get wool that has no shape whatsoever, and I mango and I twist and I wet, and I get something that you're seeing right now. Then they go, wow, right? There's a lot of unanswered questions there, but it's the kind of unanswered question that will make them stay with the piece. So this is what about the artist statement. And if it's not clear to you because we cut twice, just let me know. Let me read. Well,
can you read yours again?
Again?
Yeah, I can.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll try to read again. I sculpt animals. I mangle and twist wool. I wet, poke, and take air out to force the fiber to connect to itself and turn it into sculptures of lively animals. I often focus on species that are disappearing. I start with wool, but textiles and embroidery are frequently part of the finished piece. See, Brie, I kind of introduced them to two other things that I deal with, but they are in the same realm, right? I start by choosing the animal I want to sculpt and the story it needs to tell. Then I look for the colors of wool I will need. The technique is called needle felting, and it asks for bats of wool because it felts faster. Then a barb needle, a piece of foam, sometimes some wire, and I'm ready to start poking the fiber and taking it on its own new journey. This is my way of telling to the world that all life forms matter and should be honored, and to try to reconnect people with nature. Making is part of my daily activities. Since I've arrived in Utah in 2004, I've been leaning, there's a typo here, that's why I've been stalling here every time. I've been learning to tell fiber stories in different ways and becoming more courageous to experiment and incorporate new materials. I've published 3 books, have participated in several exhibits, and am the owner of Curious Mondo, a company focused on teaching art and resourcefulness to people. See, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 paragraphs here. And of course I could twist this if I was putting on an exhibit that wanted less words, especially if it's an online exhibit, and there are several. Sometimes you have a number of characters that you can put. So I'll take something out that I think in that case could go out. So for example, if it's an exhibit, there is one online every year that is for needle felters, right? So I have no need for the paragraph of the process, right? Everybody that is going to look at those pieces, they know what needle felting is. So it's irrelevant, it gets out, right? So you can twist, and the important is it needs to say more than you went to school, you have three kids. You can put that there if it's important, but it needs to say more than a very bland blah kind of bio, because then it's just like everybody else's, right? Bella Rose, Shahar, can they test you and Nash for corona antibodies? I don't think they're doing this here right now, but of course, if they are, I would love to know and to help. Diana, I have always been told to follow the market, and I simply cannot make something I think others will buy. I may not like it and then be stuck with a wanted piece. Yeah, I kind of, that's one reason I don't take commissions. I like to do my own thing. And if people like, awesome. If not, I may put a color that I know it's really trendy right now. If I'm creating a jewelry, for example, I may do that. But I agree with you. It's my process. So that's the reason I don't like commissions. Lisa, many times I create combining several media like silversmithing and fused glass. Both are involved types of making art. I find it incredibly difficult to explain this to people. Yeah, but you could explain the why. Right? So maybe they don't even understand exactly what silversmithing is, right? But you can say, I create jewelry that involves different processes, because for me, diversity is important. If you said, for example, this phrase, it says a lot. The moment you say, for me, diversity is important, it's telling, if that is the case, of course, it's telling a lot about you, see? And you're not really explaining the whole thing, because, it wouldn't make sense to many people. And many people are not even familiar. So you may say, I make, what do you do? Let me see. Silversmithing, fused glass. So for me, using metals like silver and glass and mixing them together tells me how I want things to be around me, for example. You can play around with that a lot. And of course, out of the blue, it's difficult to create a perfect sentence. But you see, you're not trying to put glitter on anything, but you're trying to resonate or tell them about one of your values that will resonate with a part of the population. Jenny, way back when I first started, I was and I'm back again. Talk about frustration, right? You're frustrated, I am too. So I was reading Jenny's thing that if one person asks for something, you should hear, the second and the third one, you should be on it. And this is a very healthy practice, actually. We pay a lot of attention. We get emails, maybe you should have somebody teaching egg carving, for example, or this or that. And we always keep an eye open for that. Of course, we think, okay, this is something, we have different levels that we think about courses, and some of them we call legacy courses. Our courses is really that they have a very small audience, but is an art that should not disappear. So we go after somebody to teach that. And we pay a lot of attention to the suggestions that we get. And we try actually to bring different things all the time. And I think it's true. If people start asking you for something, your first reaction is, yeah, I don't know, I don't want to do that, it's more work or whatever it is. But pay attention, because there might be a gold mine right there. Bree Shahar, would it be helpful to have a short video of your process on the website? Yes, of course, especially when it's something that people are not familiar with. A few years ago, Nashla was in college. She was doing film, and she had to do an audio documentary only. And I pitched her an idea, and she went for it. And it was, we are birders, so we love to go to watch birds. Oh no, yeah, you actually did too. So no, one was about wet felting. Yeah, and I started I had the water, so audio only. I had the water, the squishy squishy, and you have that sound, and that's how it starts. And then we went NPR style, right? I talked in the back. I wet the wool, and I went through the whole process. It lasts like a minute or two, and I love it. I love that one. And it can be, even though it's not visual, it still tells a story that when people are listening, they get intrigued. It's the mystery part again, right? Yeah, I never seen one. How is it? Oh, I think I saw one. Maybe on Instagram I saw a Russian lady doing that. But so it gets engaged with you. So yes, you can and you should if it's a technique that people are not extremely familiar with. If you're doing one on scrapbooking, well, most people know the whole process of that. But yes, Cheryl, do you change your statement often, for instance, to fit the venue show application? Well, this is quite new, but yes. And if, for example, I'm going to the other day there was one they had to cancel, but there was one that they wanted things with fiber that were totally out of the box, and I was planning on I can't remember exactly what are the pieces that I was going to submit, but they were different. They were not needle felted. So yes, I would write something around that and submit, but the process would be the same, right? I would be writing to the audience that I think would be attracted to that. I would put some of my values in that statement. If it's necessary, the process, so an out-of-the-box one is kind of important, and then create some credibility. So I've been doing this for so many years, or whatever is here I put the books, whatever you have to put in that place. Knowing who you are is also very important. They are buying the artist as well. You don't think they're buying. That's why shows are so important. Imagine, for example, the Queenland show, and you have Karen, you have Cheryl, you have Noemi, you have all of them there. Each person, I mean, if you put Noemi, April, Karen, Sherry together, they're totally different people. They have totally different personalities, and they have different beliefs and values as well, right? When they're talking to the customer, one will resonate more than the other. They may all sell well, but one will resonate better than the other to that specific customer, and that specific customer will choose the artist. You are selling yourself as well, and that's another thing that you have to be aware, even what you want to translate on how you're dressing. You don't have to be fancy or anything, but it needs to translate something of you. And we as artists, we are so fortunate with that, because you can create the most crazy jacket and wear anywhere, and that will tell you who you are. You know, you don't need to go the traditional fancy route. You can go out of the box, and why don't we go more out of the box? And if somebody looks you with like, you say, so what, right? You only have one life to live. You should live at your fullest. Political views should not determine friendship. Yeah, but they are dangerous in business, right? We, for example, in our agreement with the instructor, is totally prohibited to make political statements. We have a very large crowd, and our crowd really are from very different countries. But I think that's a big no-no. You don't talk about, in Brazil we say you never talk about politics or soccer, right? Because that never ends well. So we are all very passionate about the things we believe in. So we have to be careful sometimes. Guest 942. I think you forgot to mention you are inspiring, awesome, and extremely talented in a number of ways. Most people just think I'm crazy. So, Laura, I didn't know needle felting was a thing before I saw Curiosmondo. See? Open up a whole new world for me. Look at that. And it's been around for quite a while. So you see how it is, and we see this every day with other things too. Bella Rose, you're doing great, Shahar. Yeah, she cuts me all the time. I don't know. We all appreciate everything, especially knowing how tired you and Asha must be. I'm so longing for Saturday. You have no clue. Diana, I think we don't want to lose some art. No one wants to be apprentice instant gratification, but now maybe that will be a good thing to. Let me see if I understood that. I think we don't want to lose some arts. No one wants to be apprentice instant gratification, but now maybe that will be a good thing to come out of this interest. Well, think about this. One, there are 2 points here. One is people are staying more at home, and even though they can go to Netflix all day long, it gets boring after a while. So they're probably paying more attention to videos and live streamings and things like that. on social network. And yes, it may spike interest for many things that they didn't think of. The other thing is some arts are disappearing. In England at the beginning of the year, they did a study of the forms of arts going away. And I think there were 16 of them. Basketry, for example, is one. And the big thing why that is happening is not because there is no interest. It's really that there is nobody to teach another generation. And that happens all the time. For example, sewing. Sewing is a big thing. I mean, the sewing guild is huge. Even here in Utah, I think we have 4 or 5 chapters. But they're very specific to one generation. My mic is getting in the way? The gnome is... No, stay quiet. Please, let me take this out here. Oh, it's because it is in the wrong place. Okay, so what happens in these groups? They are pretty much, they have one generation attending, right? And the generation coming up, their approach to certain forms of art is very different. And they are not joiners, right? Especially the millennials, they don't tend to join groups. The joining thing is a thing. It happens the same thing in chambers of commerce. It's hard to attract them. So you have that gap. And in some cases, the art is dying because of that. We have a plan with the legacy courses to bring all of them. It's just a matter of being able to find the instructors, and of course to understand that that week we are not going to have sales and be okay with that. So we need to be healthy in order to do that, but it's extremely important. And the second point about that, and it's important also when you're trying to make your things, if you're thinking about selling, is that in many of those things there is a new wave coming. A visual new wave coming. That is happening, for example, with macrame, or macrame, I don't know how you pronounce that. That is happening with rug hooking, which is fascinating. Weaving, and the new tapestry that is made on looms. They are visually very different. They are very modern. And I think they're very, very cool. That is coming from this new generation here. So when you're trying to sell, you might have a passion for the process, let's say weaving, but you have to see, okay, my ideal client, is it in this age bracket or in this very young age bracket? If it's here, my design will need to adapt to what they are looking for right now. Right? So macrame, for example, is something in the 70s. It was super popular. I remember my mother had some stuff inside the house. Well, today you have that revival, but it's not the revival with the same visual. It's different. There are other propositions. When it comes to tapestry and even weaving, you see a lot of totally different fibers and ways of building and textures, and that is very different than the traditional. So you still need to know the process, and of course it's always better to get with it's been here for such a long time. But when you're thinking about selling, if your ideal client is in that age bracket, you need to start moving. And also you need to think, am I going to be, do I want to be selling my art 20 years from now? I need to understand what's coming in and adapting to that, right? Unless you want to be a very traditional artist in that process and only sell for people that are interested in the very traditional one. Okay, you saw this with the sculpting and steampunk trend, right? How you would start making exactly the same type of sculpture, but now they were dressed in a different way. They were telling a different story, and you can ride on the wave with that. But you need to see the art that I like. Does it have a modern flair that is coming up? And go take a look. And I think it's very interesting because you do have 2 social networks when you can compare those things all the time. On Facebook, you're going to see everything as it has been done and amazing, amazing stuff. But if I want to say, okay, rug hooking, I belong to some groups on that. And I get the magazine and everything. Well, what happens when I go to Instagram? I can find some new stuff coming up with rug hooking that not even the magazines are still pushing that to promote, right? And I don't know the why, and I don't want to know. But you can see those 2 trends, those 2 things coming. Let me take this out because it's getting in the way, you know. My mic up. I have a feeling I'm not expressing myself well today, so I hope it's making sense what I'm saying. I'm doing great, good. Thank- Oh, up here. Okay, okay, my pleasure. So, and it's a fascinating thing to do. It's to be able to see the trend in the medium that you love to work. And you can see, and you can see it's a generational thing, this changes. And you think, do I want my business to be here 10 years from now? I have to go and start incorporating this new look, this new thing to me. More than once we talked about component of entertainment. Remember that you can always bring a component of entertainment into whatever you're doing, especially when you were thinking about creating gallery shows online, boutiques, special events, follow me along events and things like that. What can you bring as a component of entertainment? So of course, you could bring music that you can play. Be careful when you are online. If you are online, never, and you're live, never put a music in the background or TV in the background. You will be cut right away by YouTube, and I mean right away. So don't even try that. But if you have a friend that plays something, then you could have. But what else? What else could you do? Give me an idea here. Even better than that. What have we done in these 5 days to bring a component of entertainment? After all, we talked about recession, we talked about virus, we talked about business. There's not one topic that was fun. But how did we bring a component of entertainment? I'll let you answer while I read the comments here. Let me see. Laura B saying, weaving is changing a lot. Small looms, small projects, tapestries. I got a loom now that I'm totally in love with that loom. And it's made of metal and it stays up. And right now I'm making a bracelet of beads, but I want to learn the tapestry part. And then I bought another one that is this big, and I was thinking, oh, when I'm in the car or something, I can use that. And I'm actually learning the stitches for the tapestry on that one. And yes, you see amazing things coming out from the new generation with this. So we need to be aware of that. Gisette saying, I made lots of money doing macrame in the 70s and 80s. So if you go, for example, on Instagram, and you take a look at this new artist coming up, it's going to fill you with so many cool ideas. For example, in the 70s, I was 10 years old in 1970, but never really caught my attention. I knew it existed, I knew my mother had it, but never caught my attention. And today, I mean, I do have a frame right here in my living room that I bought because I want to train. I hardly find the time, so I only did 2 pieces, and one of them is in another place. I love them, but I need the time. And now you have different types of cords and many different colors. Amazing stuff is coming up. Go back into that because you can still make a lot of money with that. Lisa Shahar, you are doing amazing. I hear you and understand. Thank you. Because I'm really thinking, blah, 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 and I don't drink. Lisa, component of entertainment, you should evoke joy. Well, that could be, right? Your energy will play. What else? What else did we have here that could be said it was a component of entertainment? Bits of humor between the solemn things. Yeah, exactly. How you're running the show can be. Let me think if I can remember businesses and the component of entertainment. That's a very easy one. Get a Kinder Egg. What's inside the Kinder Egg? Right? It's a toy. I know here in the States for a while they were not allowed, but they're very big in many countries. That's a component of entertainment, the toy. I remember I lived here in the 60s, 68 or 67 in Michigan with my uncle and aunt. He was going to the University of Michigan, and I spent a year with them. And I remember that the cereal boxes, right, they had toys inside. And I remember that one day the cereal box came with a paper record with the music Sugar Sugar by the Archies. And I remember cutting that because I couldn't believe that would play on a turntable. And I was very serious about my turntable. It was very important to me. And it played, and that thing, I ripped that thing apart, but it was so fun. That's a component of entertainment with the food. The food industry did this many times, right? But you can do in any business. Let me see if I have anything else. No. So, yes, I do. I don't have here. The way it was presented was the component, your style. There's something else. Oh, the background decor, lots of joy. Get 7819. Yes, every single day we play Where's Waldo, right? And we put a different piece of art. Sometimes it was my art. Sometimes it was Jim's Valentine's bear, for example. And we changed the position of the things here. So it was very subtle, but I bet the first day you saw very, very well together. I can see what's in the background. The second day you thought there's something different. And then you saw the bird and said, wait a minute, they're playing with me here. So it's a very subtle component of entertainment, but it still was there. And colors and everything that were changing. Because again, we are dealing with emotions now, and colors, they play a big role on that. So we were playing with that a little bit. What else do I have here? Laura, oh ma'am, I remember those cardboard records here and there. I only saw once, and it was that one. And I remember I took it when I went back. Actually, my mother, it was my first death threat. She called me and she said, you either come back or I'm going to go all the way there to pick you up. So I went back to Brazil. But I went with that record. I loved that record. And it was so amazing, right? Look at the technology. It was a paper thing that would play a music. It was phenomenal. You gave me CLKMD. You gave me a welcome break from the stress of treating patients these days. Go accomplish. Well, I cannot. The only thing I can tell you is thank you so much for doing this. You know, I know how hard it has been on all of you that deal with healthcare, and I really, really, really appreciate what you guys are doing. I wish we as a society could treat you better than what's going on right now. But, you know, you have my support full time. I love your art. Lisa is saying thank you. Guest 942. Hi, it wasn't subtle, but it's it's lovely. Bree, I think the records were in magazines too. Maybe they were. I don't know. I only would buy magazines that had Donny Osmond on the cover. Yeah, David Cassidy and things like that. Man, you know, I was not an easy kid, I have to tell you. I was the black sheep in my family. I was a little nuts. Not that I did bad things, but I would drive my parents crazy. And you know how they would ground me? So the magazines like Tiger Beat and Pop and all the other ones, they would go to Brazil. And of course, it's very different than today, right? They would arrive 1 month late because, of course, they had to be shipped there and everything. And they were expensive because you would pay the price in dollars, of course. And when my father wanted to ground me, he would go 1 month without Tiger Beat, you know, or 2 months and I would cry because it's like the world was ending if that happened. So they didn't put me looking at the wall, not even once. That was not a thing. But, you know, suppressing myself on my idols was a very big thing. Cindy DeGraw. Going back to a website, well, what about if we go back to topic? If an artist works in both 2D and 3D paints, sculpts, and also dies assemblage, are you saying a separate website is needed for each medium? Can you extrapolate on that more? And then it's so complicated. So the things that run parallel to each other, you could put them together. So let's see here what we have. 2D and 3D paints or sculpts, they fall in the same thing, right? You could have sculpts and paint. I'm not familiar with the dies assemblage. So if you think they somewhat relate to each other, yes. If they're extremely different than each other, they target different audiences, then they would need to be separate. Okay, and that happens in business too. There are many solopreneurs that they do this and that, the thing of wearing many hats. What happens with that? Like when I was going to networking meetings, the moment a person would stand up, and there was always one, that would go, I wear many hats. the moment they say that, you just shut down. You don't listen to what's coming next. And the credibility will be an issue in business. I'm not saying in arts, in business, right? But the problem is, we have this thing, what are you good at? So when I consult with a client in business, that would be a no-no. If you're a massage therapist, but you are also an accountant, they don't have anything to do together. They don't run parallel to each other at all. So it needs to be separate. It's a total different audience, right? The massage therapist, the client is somebody that has back pain, just wants to relax or whatever it is. And the accounting are business owners that need the numbers taken care of, right? So total different audience. It needs to be separate. But if they run parallel, or they sell to similar audiences, then there is no problem being together. It would be extremely hard for you to manage 3 or 4 websites because it would be a boatload of work. So you don't want that. So you have to think if they all run together. I think 2D, 3D, sculpting, they are all in the same realm. The paint, it's okay. It is not that far apart that it would be a total different audience. So just the dye assemblage, I don't know exactly what it is, but if it's in that realm, it's the same audience. So it's important again to go back to yesterday and say, who is my client, what they are looking for, and does the sculpt fit into this? Does the 3D, could he buy this? Could he buy that? Would that be okay? So I gave you the example of glass and fiber. Very different audience. Even their life proposition is different. With the fiber people, you see a lot of people that are into farming, for example, of course, right? Simple way of living. Being self-sustainable, for many of them, is a very big thing. Because they may shear the lamb, they may spin the fiber, and then they knit into something. So they go through the whole process. They are resourceful, and they want to control the whole thing. They also tend to be very money conscious, right? So I know how that audience is. If I sell fiber, I'm going to talk to that audience. Now, the glass audience is a total different group of people. And of course, you may even have glass artists that do fiber as well. Jody McDougall here in town, she has an interview on Curious Mondo. She makes wet felted hats. She likes to do some needle felting. She spins, right? She does all that, and she is unbelievable with glass. I mean, her very strong point is still glass. And what you see on social media most of the time is all about glass. But she also inserts those every now and then. And when she does shows, many times she also brings some of the fibers together. But usually glass artists and fiber are different people because of the tactile component that you have with the fiber, and the non-touchy component, not so touchy component you have with the glass is one of the difference. We find that with courses, they are very different as a group. Very different as a group. The price, how they are comfortable spending is very different. So you need to know who you're selling to and if you can join those two together or not. I hope I answered your question. But anyway, 3 or 4 websites wouldn't do, it would be a nightmare for you to manage. We manage several, and it's not easy. I wouldn't go that route. Maybe 2 in some cases, but not more than that. Could I have the different arts on separate pages of the same website instead of separate websites? So yes, if let's suppose that you do fiber and paper, okay? So you would say, let's say you have a gallery, you subdivide the gallery fiber, paper, or sculptures and whatever else you do, and paints. That's totally okay. But think again, if it's the same audience, because when you it's not when you're building the website, when you're marketing the website to people, right? You need to be specific to your prospect, your buyer, or else you're going to be spending more time and more money talking to both. That is the real thing that you need to think about, because it could be any 2 or 3 arts together on a website if they appeal to the same type of audience. It could even be more if they appeal to the same kind of audience. Okay, because when I mean get expensive is you either at some point will spend money in advertising or Facebook ads or things like that, or you will spend the time to be able not to spend that money to make things go. So it makes more difficult. Same thing when you create a page on Facebook. It needs to be about something specific. because the way it is already very, very hard for you to attract an audience. If you spread that topic and the keywords, it gets even harder. And then you will see that Facebook every now and then sends to you, we think your page is about this, and if you don't say anything, we will change. So if you don't see that notification, they change your page for you, because they are making assumptions on the types of posts that you're putting. So if you're putting, for example, on a page about art, and you also put stuff a lot about politics, they may do that at some point. And even when you don't, they every now and then they come up with their own suggestion, and you have to control that, because you need to have some control of your page. But think about that, keywords and everything. If you have to use a huge array of different things, it just makes everything get harder. Last one, what about possible gallery tabs within the website that keeps the process separate? So like I said, you can have fiber, and then you can have sculpting in different tabs of the gallery. 2 or 3 doesn't bug anybody. But in each one, in each picture, for example, a simple thing with artists, pictures, they need to have keywords, not numbers. You take your picture with your cell phone. When you upload, the name of that picture is a number. That has no value whatsoever. It doesn't benefit at all. You need to rename that with, for example, fiber sculpture, needle felting, wool art, textile artist, love wool, something like that, the keyword. They all need to have that, or else you have a website that has a bunch of numbers that means nothing to the search engine. And I will end with how the search engines... There's more here? We're late. I'm going to miss my Ozark episode. So, for example, how Google or a search engine looks at your website. And of course, this changes every now and then a bit, but it's made by robots, right? So the robot gets to the website and usually looks at the title. Your website has a title. Looks at the title of the website, and it's asking, what is this about? And it may say, Laura is 3D sculpts. Oh, it may be about 3D sculpts. Then he goes into the text, and he's still asking, what is this about? And if you don't mention, for example, 3D sculpts anymore, it gets lost. And then he goes to the bottom of the page, and is looking for the same answer. If you there have nothing relevant, it also doesn't know what you are about. It puts you anywhere in the search engine, and you never show for the things that you should be showing 3D sculpting, right? When he looks at the pictures, if the name is something that doesn't make sense or is a number, it's going to put your website with numbers out there, nothing to do with what you're looking for. So when I say the websites take some work, it's exactly this. You take a picture, you upload to the site, but you need to name it correctly. All the pictures need to have text in the name. You don't see that, but the robot do. It's like serving 2 masters at once. You are serving the search engines masters, please show me on your first page, and you're serving the clients. See? And it needs to make sense to both of them. It needs to be appealing to both of them. With the customer, is the stories that you told, is how you place, the colors that you choose, all that. With the search engine is, what is this about? And if it doesn't make sense, it just throws you someplace that people would never find you, right? But if it's about 3D sculpts and sculpting and sculptor or artist, then these things make sense. It starts putting you in a better place. If you're very relevant, so for example, everything is about wool and needle felting, it has no other place to put me as in the needle felt category. And that's when I can show maybe on the first or second page over time. It doesn't happen right away, over time, right? You see the difference. And because people do not go 10 pages searching for something, you are always fighting to be as close to the first page as possible, right? Now, you are always competing with companies like Amazon and eBay. They have the resources to put lots of money on pay-per-click, on advertising for whatever keyword. You type smile and you will see an Amazon ad popping up. Well, when they do it right, it also uses some of there are only 8 searches in every page of the search engine, so they are going to be taking some of them as well. So you're competing with big fish. as well. So you need to be very, very, very relevant when you're talking, when you're writing the text. And I know how painful it is for everybody to put text on the website. Like I told you, Nashla has done hundreds of websites, and she asks for content, and people send one line. When we are very lucky, one paragraph. The search engine needs at least 250 words on a page to even index that page, to even make that page show anywhere. So if you have less than that, the page is not even showing. And then on top of that, your pictures have numbers, it's never going to show. You see? So that's the work, and that's a topic for a whole nother series, because the SEO, the search engine optimization, changes very often. But you need to be relevant, because you're talking to a robot, and the robot needs to understand what you are about. Shahar, what is the best way for us to figure out what customers for the different medias are into, so we can speak to them? I don't think I understood, Bree. It's really, I believe what you're asking. You need to create that story, that compelling story. You need to do the exercise, or if you missed yesterday, the exercise of how to find your ideal client. If I know exactly who my ideal client is, I can talk to her and resonate all the time. Ours happen to be a female, right? And we know the age, and we know what they go through and everything, or she goes through. It's very easy now for us to talk to our ideal client, but you need to start that process, and then you can tell your why and everything, and that person will get. Guest 9336, can you shed some light on people taking your original ideas and copying them as their own, or with a slight twist without going through copyright, etc.? Depending on what you make, you are going to be copied, and you are going to have to learn how to live with that. So for example, if you make, jewelry is a very good example, right? You're either doing jewelry with beads or what, well, with beads, it's a very easy example, because just by looking at it, the person can see the process, right? What I can tell you is this: I wouldn't worry too much about it. We used to get a lot of this question from instructors, but I'm going to show my process, and I'm going to be copied. And then I would go and tell them there is a difference. When we are learning, we need to mimic. So if you're teaching me something, I kind of need to make exactly what you're doing. Even trying to train my hand to do the same movement that I'm doing, because I need to understand how you achieve the process. That's how we learn how to talk and how to walk. It's intrinsic to us learning. So yes, the very first piece or so, it will be very similar to yours. And when you look really at the pictures, you see not even them. But it can be, right? It can be very similar to yours. But once the person understands the process, and, oh, I got it how it's done, almost immediately, they start putting their own twist on the things. And then it's theirs. Then they start changing. So in 5 years, even though we had that question many, many times, that worry, it's the same worry with, oh, but you show everything that I do for free, people will not buy. And even worse, they might not even call me again to give a class nowhere, because you offer that for free. And then I have to explain. They have a very limited bracket to see that for free, and then the free goes away. So unless the person that was going to take a class with you, I don't know, in the Netherlands, watched that simple thing and memorized every single thing without buying, then they may not go to your class. But other than that never happens. So in 5 years, neither of these two problems ever happen. And we have some clients that we have some classes that they were so popular that for a few days everybody was posting the pictures of what they were making, and they were very similar. But then they start changing, and even if they go and sell, it's already their thing, right? But they did learn with you, so part of the process will be there. Can people steal your stuff and say it's yours? Yes, you have that, but it's really a minority. Now, with that said, there are processes out there that have been there forever. Actually, this happened with the beaded flowers. They started being made in the 1600s. It's a very long time. And people have created all types of ways. For example, a rose, there are like 10,000 ways of making a rose with the bead. Well, you might have taken the time, for example, to make your own rose. You may even have given a twist or two, but all the process is putting beads in wires and twisting them. And you wrote a pattern, right? And you sell that pattern. Power to you. But that has been done. You just translated that into a pattern. And then if you see somebody that made a rose very similar to yours, and you are going to assume they're stealing your pattern, well, we can discuss that a lot, right? Because it is the same process over hundreds of years, and every single twist and difference has been made by somebody already. And not because you translate it into a pattern that you might even believe that you created that way of doing, but it's very unlikely, right? And then accusing without proof is another problem in itself, right? So, for example, you can look, if you know the process of this, and you will see that in the course, you can look at a picture and make the flower. You do not need a pattern for that at all. See, so it's complicated when it gets to all this. People copy. If you're putting on social media, or if you're making free YouTube videos, you're putting that out there, and you're actually giving them permission to do whatever they want. Now, if they get a paid product and then they call them theirs, then that is an issue, you see. But it doesn't happen that often. It doesn't happen that often. We have a lot of fear about that. I deal with that every single day. You know, every time I invite a new instructor, those questions, they come. And I say, first, this is what happens. And second, we've been doing this for 5 years now, every single week. And really never had a huge issue with that, right? We had the opposite. People trying to get courses from other people that had paid and stuff like that. But, you know, copying the instructors and start making a living or selling the same exact piece, it really never has happened. They do things very similar when they are learning. And then they move on because, you know what, we get tired. I may even copy your piece the first time because I want to understand your process and everything. But later, I don't like the way you use this, or I don't like the way you make this, and I change. That's my opinion about that. Okay. Thank you, Shahar and Nash and Curious Mondo and Village. So wonderful to spend this time with you and hear your wonderful thoughts, ideas, and suggestions. Thank you very much. Cindy, you are a true joy. Thank you. Diana, this is a wonderful thing that you have done. Thank you. We thought it would be needed at this point. This is a aha moment. Thank you so much. Thank you, Lisa. Guest 6428. Thank you. And Laura, thanks so much for sharing the time with this whole week. I can tell you one thing. I did plan 30 minutes every night, and we went way over that every single time. I talk too much, but I also think that this is a moment that many of us are questioning how to go and how to move forward. And that's where we need to be focused on how we move forward, right? Not what's stacking of problems that we have at the moment. You have to focus on the solution, not on the problem. And I hope I gave you at least some glimpses. I know to some people I might have overwhelmed and think, now I have to have a website, and now I have to put names on my picture. I don't even know how to do that. Yeah. Don't panic. Do one thing a day. You probably have time now that you can deal with these things. You may not even have the resources, but you have time to start planning, to start deciding how you want things, a gallery, if you're doing events, what you're going to do online, all this kind of stuff, how you're going to develop problems. And actually, this time is a great time to do that, because once you leave the fear out for a few moments and start thinking about possibilities and start thinking about a new normal for you, it's going to be a new normal for all of us, but it doesn't have to be a bad one, and I don't even believe it's going to be a bad one. It's a moment of transformations. Maybe we are all going to turn into a different type of butterflies right now, and that's phenomenal. That actually can be a blessing in disguise, right? We are having the time that we are usually busy with other things, right? We are having introspection moments because we are having to deal with emotions that we didn't used to deal on a daily basis, right? And we are having to deal also with sometimes very difficult feelings. Each one of us takes this chaos a different way. And some of us are easy, like my daughter, she pets the dog while the earthquake is going, and others are, oh my gosh, I'm almost dead, everything is going to fall apart, like me. So it all depends, right? Each one of us takes chaos in a different way. But I told you once that on my first day in college, I was in psychology. My very first day, I went to college and I had no idea how it was going to be. And, I had my own teenager insecurities, a lot of them. And comes this guy, the teacher, totally with the hair all over the place, looking like a lunatic. And the first thing he does is step on the table and throws himself on the floor. Well, we were used to saying, yes, ma'am, yes, sir. And, the high school was a total different animal. And we all went, we got a crazy person here, right? And then right after that, he stood up and he said, when we make a huge transition, like childhood to adulthood, like high school to college, what we face at the beginning is chaos. And chaos has no logic, has no connecting dots, has no anything. It's chaos. We feel there is no earth under our feet, and for a little bit, we feel lost. But then, as chaos continues, we start creating our own logic around it, and we start getting used and creating changes around it. And then we transition from one phase to the other. And of course, he said this in a much better way. But I got the idea. This is a changing moment that I don't know how to deal with, being a teenager and then turning into a woman. No idea how to do that. Never did that before. And nobody gave me a manual either. And now I'm feeling lost. And I don't know if I'm going to have friends. I don't know if I'll ever find a boyfriend. I don't know anything. But as the days go by and I attend school and I understand what college is about, what I have to do, what I'm really figuring out, then things start making sense again and we move on as a different person. And I think what's going on is really exactly that. We are graduating from one state of being to another one. And there is chaos happening, and it's going to happen for a while, but that also gives us time to make questions, make decisions, and make changes to ourselves. And when chaos starts turning into normalcy and things start becoming a pattern, we're going to be ready for that. So that was my goal during this week, that if I could shine you on some business bits, so if you want to transition to be a full-time artist, or you're struggling now and you need to figure out ways to make money, or the many unanswered questions are making you suffer, I hope we could be here saying, let's look at this in a different perspective. So if I did that, I accomplished my goal here, and it was worth not watching TV during the evening and making National Network TV, and making Sam stay with the dogs the whole time so they wouldn't bark. So, from my family to yours, stay safe, stay home, don't panic, start making plans. It's so fulfilling when you have new plans. I'll see you Monday.